Hey, welcome back. I'm Ibnul J. Farabi, and this is Flashpoints, the wars that shaped us. You know, as an engineer, I'm used to problems with clear parameters. You assess the variables, you apply logic, you find a solution. But what happens when the problem has two legs, stands over 6 feet tall, and can outrun a truck? What happens when the enemy is a bird? Picture this. Western Australia, 1932. The Great Depression is gripping the world. Veterans from the First World War, many of them given land by the government to start anew, are trying to scrape a living from the wheat farms in the Campion district. Times are hard, the soil is tougher, and just as the first hopeful green shoots begin to appear, a new crisis marches out of the outback. Not an invading army, but an invading flock. 20,000 emus. Massive, flightless birds, descending on the farms, devouring the crops, trampling the fences, and leaving a wasteland in their wake. These veterans, men who had survived the trenches of the Western Front, found themselves utterly helpless. They fired guns into the flocks, but it was like trying to stop a sandstorm with a bucket. Frustrated and desperate, they petitioned the government for help. And the government, in its wisdom, decided to send in the army. Yes, the army. This is the story of the Great Emu War, Australia's most absurd military campaign. The request reached the desk of Sir George Pearce, the Minister of Defense, and he saw a perfect symmetry here. Here were struggling veterans, and here was a surplus of soldiers with machine guns who needed training. It would be a public works project, a morale booster, and a pest control operation all in one. He approved the deployment. The media immediately dubbed it the Emu War. And so, in November of 1932, Major G.P.W. Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery marched forth to do battle with the birds. He was equipped with 2 Lewis machine guns, 10,000 rounds of ammunition, and a profound underestimation of his adversary. The campaign began with a clear military objective: to engage and neutralize the emu forces massing near Campion. The plan was to herd the birds into an ambush where the machine guns could cut them down. On their first day, they spotted a flock of perhaps 1,000 emus. They maneuvered into position, ready to unleash hell. And then the birds did something extraordinary. They didn't stand and fight. They didn't panic into a neat killing zone. They scattered. They broke into small, agile groups and ran, their powerful legs carrying them at speeds of up to 30 miles per hour, zigzagging through the scrub. The soldiers opened fire, but hitting a fast-moving, weaving emu from a distance with a machine gun proved almost impossible. The reports from the field are like something from a satire. They claimed perhaps a dozen kills from that first engagement. Not exactly the decisive victory they'd envisioned. They tried again. They mounted a machine gun on a truck, thinking mobility was the key. This led to one of the most surreal images in military history. A truck bouncing over the rough outback terrain, a soldier clinging to a wildly jerking machine gun, trying to draw a bead on a pack of emus sprinting effortlessly ahead of them. The truck couldn't keep up. The gunners couldn't get a stable shot. And the birds, it seemed, were not just fast, but tactically brilliant. They'd split up, disappear into the landscape, and regroup later. Major Meredith, in his official reports, expressed a kind of baffled respect. He noted the emu's command of guerrilla tactics, stating that each flock seemed to have its own leader, a huge black-plumed bird that stood watch while the others fed. Even in his frustration, he was documenting the enemy's effective use of sentries. After 6 days of fruitless campaigning, the army had expended 2,500 rounds of ammunition for a confirmed kill count of maybe 50 birds. The media had a field day. Newspapers back in the cities ran mocking headlines. Parliamentarians questioned the absurdity of it all. Facing ridicule and a clearly ineffective campaign, the defense minister ordered a withdrawal. The emus had won the first battle, but the farmers were still suffering. Their complaints grew louder. And so, incredibly, the government sent Major Meredith back in. Round 2. This time, he adopted a more strategic approach, focusing on smaller groups and setting up ambushes near water holes. The kill rate improved somewhat. Over the next month or so, Meredith's unit claimed around 986 kills. But here's the devastating math. They also reported expending 9,860 rounds of ammunition. That's roughly 10 bullets per emu. A spectacularly inefficient ratio. And when you consider that the total emu population in the area was estimated at 20,000, their campaign had made barely a dent. By December, the military packed up for good. The human cost was zero. The emu casualty figure was a minor statistical fluctuation. And the wheat? The birds kept on eating. So what do we make of this? On the surface, it's a hilarious footnote, a story you tell to make people laugh at the sheer ridiculousness of it all. A modern army defeated by birds. But as a storyteller and an engineer, I look for the deeper currents. This wasn't just a silly mistake. It was a profound failure of human arrogance. We looked at a complex ecological problem, a species displaced by human encroachment, adapting to a new food source. And we applied the only tool we thought was powerful enough: brute force. We declared war on nature, and nature, in the form of these incredibly resilient, adaptable birds, handed us a humiliating defeat. It reminds me of the times in my own life, in tech and in business, when I've tried to force a solution onto a problem that required nuance, observation, and adaptation. You can't machine gun a market into liking your product. You can't engineer your way through every human or natural variable. Sometimes, the environment itself is the most powerful player in the game. In the end, the Australians found a better solution. They went back to basics. The government finally instituted a proper bounty system for the farmers themselves. It was cheaper, more effective, and put the control in the hands of the people living with the problem every day. The emu population was managed, not through a grand military campaign, but through local, sustained effort. The war was a fleeting, embarrassing spectacle. The solution was quiet, practical, and it worked. The Great Emu War teaches us that not every problem is a nail, even when you're holding a very big, very impressive hammer. It's a lesson in humility. It's a reminder that before we charge in with our most powerful technology, we should probably take a moment to understand what and who we're really up against. Sometimes, the most formidable enemy isn't an opposing army. It's our own refusal to see the world as it truly is. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story of history's most feather-brained conflict, please share this episode with a friend. For more deep dives into the wars that shaped us, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. This is Ibnul J. Farabi, and this has been Flashpoints, a production of Light Knot Studios. Visit us at lightknotstudios.com. Until next time.